Debbie Gibson here, and I can't shake my love for Rob Sprance and the whole podcast.
Welcome to The Hole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.
And Debbie Gibson is joining us, a fellow Long Islander. Welcome, Debbie. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great.
I want to congratulate you right out of the gate. Your first album in 20 years, which I can't believe. The Body Remembers is coming out on August 20th. The news just broke today about the single coming out. It'll be out by the time people check this out, but there's a new single as well called One Step Closer that's coming out. So first of all, congratulations on a new album.
Thank you. I can't believe it's been 20 years. I think like so many of us that reflect on things that we're like, I thought that was 10 years that went by. It was 20? How'd that happen?
I know.
I think what happened is like I got so in my theater tunnel. I ended up doing 17 musicals in 17 years, which is insane, to like late 30s. And, I had a very, very tough decade, like late 30s to late 40s, with a lot of, health issues and a lot of changes in my life. And the music just started to really, like in the last few years, flow in a way where I was like, oh, shoot, something's happening. The music kind of takes on a life of its own and you can't stop it. So I'm so happy this moment's finally here and I get to share it with everybody.
That's great. So how long would you say on this album that you started? As a musician, I'm sure you're always working on stuff. I mean, you're on the piano all the time. You're always doing things. But what becomes the point where you go, oh, wait a minute, I've got this. Now, all of a sudden, I may have an album here. Now, you put out Girls' Night Out a few years ago, so it's not like you haven't released anything, but an album
Right.
is a completely different thing altogether.
Yes,
So-
and listen, this is 15 songs. This is like no joke.
Wow.
The details that are on this album. But yeah, originally it was going to be like a 6-song dance EP because I was very much in the dance mode. I think because during the pandemic, like everybody had their own way of dealing, and mine was in the form of like channeling that intensity into my music, and that and taking out the trash and high heels both went hand in hand. But they do go hand in hand because it was like an energy that I was constantly trying to pull out of myself because I'm like, geez, like I could be spiraling down or I could be spiraling up, and what's going to spiral me up? And this kind of melodic dance music became like a thread running through my life. And then it started expanding, and then it turned into some more ballads and mid-tempos, and it all took on a life of its own. But yeah, so it doesn't take much for me to put pen to paper, but to get into the studio and start to, build tracks with my collaborators, that would be like, oh, wait, this song is really speaking to me on another level. And I would, start tracking it up. And and it just, like I said, took on a life of its own. When it became 15 songs, I was like, well, I love that. And, because it has been so long. And I really treated it like an album because, obviously now you always hear from anybody you're working with on the music executive side, like everything's digital, everything's single oriented, everything streams. And I'm like, I still believe there's music fans out there that want to be taken on that album-like journey from start to finish. And these songs collectively, like there's a lot of genres and a lot of influences. So finding the way they would connect and travel from song 1 to 15 was no easy task. But now that that's done, it really is like this cohesive body of work that really reflects my life and hopefully a lot of people's lives. That, I love going toward the relatability, but toward the inspiration. Like, okay, these are the challenges we're facing, and this is how we can find our way through them and out of them.
Yeah, and the personal side of it, that's a bigger deal more than anything else, because you don't want to write an album just to write an album. You'd rather write an album, when you're ready, and it's something that, you feel you have something to say. But you mentioned, 17 musicals in 17 years. You've also done, you've done a couple of movies. It's not like you haven't been doing things, but I agree with you as far as the albums go. Like, I think the reason why a lot of the industry says single, 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 digital, digital is because that's where the money is easy for them. Whereas, you know, like you've sold 16 million albums. It's not like you've sold 50. So, and you sold them at the time, like to buy an album, you didn't go on and click a button. You got up, went to a store, you bought the record, you came back home. Like it was 16 million of those. And it's a huge difference in what it takes to do something. So I for one am very happy that you're back with an album. And I know that you've actually you remade a track with Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block. You redid "Lost in Your Eyes" again. Another one of your biggest songs. What's it like to go back and do that? And like, do you go back and listen to what it was again? Because I'm sure you've got tapes of you at 16, 18 singing those things, and now even when you're live, like you have to hit notes that a 16-year-old maybe hit. So what's your mindset in that?
That's a great question, because and a great comment, because I always had this very my ambition always led the way. It wasn't my voice. I was not born singing like Kelly Clarkson or Beyonce. I was born with a decent voice, a knack for writing songs and being able to play the piano by ear, and a lot of motivation. But that motivation sometimes got me in trouble. Like I'd go to belt high notes and I'm like, and it's like, it at this point in my life, that kind of energy takes me down. So I really had to find places, because that song's the new version's in the original key. But I found more open, spacious ways to sing that they're not forced. And I feel like that's so much more evolved, and it's harder for me because I have to actually control my adrenaline, which is no easy task. Right. But you mentioned right before, we said hi to everybody out there. Yeah. That we shared a voice teacher. Like my first unbelievably influential voice teacher, Gwen.
Yeah. So Gwen Omeron is a vocal teacher, and you could see the two trajectories, because Debbie and I both took vocal lessons with Gwen Omeron. She sold 16 million albums. I think I sold 4. So there's a slight disparity between the two. That being said, it was an apartment in Manhattan, and she had weights all around and a piano, and this older lady, and you would do these scales, and you would do them with your lips, you would do like that. Yes, and exactly. And I used to have the tape. I don't have it anymore. I actually looked for it beforehand. I don't have it anymore. I couldn't play it if I did. But yeah, we both had the same teacher for a while, and
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to say, if you want to laugh, because you mentioned the weights. So for people who are going weights, if let's say you're like a 15-year-old going to the gym for the first time, and you don't have any weights, and someone says, we're going to strengthen your bicep, and you're like, well, where is it? You can't feel it without the resistance of a weight. So when teachers would say, you sing with your diaphragm, do you know, a little kid hearing that goes, what does that mean? Even older people go, what is it? How do I isolate where my diaphragm is, how to move it? So she would have you put scuba belts around your hips, ankle weights on, and hold handheld weights, because it would bring your scapula out and down, and you'd have to use the ground. So if you picture a diver on a diving board, you have to go down to spring up. And so her concept was, you need to feel the the ground, what's the word I'm looking for? The resistance from the ground, the opposition in your body, so that the air would fly past your throat. You're not going to grip your throat or use your throat, and the sound would come out. I took it to such an extreme, because I was like, well, the more weights I pile on my body, the higher my range is getting. Uh-oh. And again, it makes sense. Although I think I had sciatica at 19 and didn't know what it was, but. If you want to laugh, I have my weights coming to me here in this apartment in Chicago. I'm here doing a movie, but I'm preparing for my show. Every now and again, I reconnect with that concept, because when you haven't sung in a long time and you want the body to kind of remember that springy feeling and all that resistance, So, I remembered at one point I was up for the Broadway show Wicked. First of all, I was there were like three of us up for two of the different companies, and I was the one who didn't get it. And I was so relieved because I was like, hitting those notes every night is a nightmare to me because that's not my voice. I'm not Idina Menzel. But
Yeah.
I busted out the weights for that audition and the callback,
Wow.
and I could do it. I could do, look to the western sky, all that stuff, but I could do it with all the power behind it because of those freaking Gwen Omer on weights. God rest her
Crazy,
soul.
right?
She was just the best.
Yeah, I mean, she would have you lay down. I remember like the first lesson, she'd be like, "Okay, lay down." I'm like, "What? What's going on?"
Right.
But
She was like Pilates before Pilates was a thing. Like she was doing all these things like that were about connection that nobody else was really doing mainstream. So she traveled with me. I mean, I would call her, but she was, she was such an example too of being ageless. Like my friends would be like, "Is Gwen coming to your birthday party this year?" Like, my 20-year-old friends couldn't wait to see Gwen because she was so hip. She was always so current. Like, right. She lived, Midtown, West Side, Manhattan, and lived there till her last days. And she just stayed so like relevant,
Yeah, she was great. So, that was a funny thing. But, to go back to Joey McIntyre, you're playing some shows in Vegas with him. First three are sold out already, but you've got three more, the 16th through 19th of September, which tickets are, I
Four
guess,
more,
Yeah, so are limited now. So, in addition to that, are you thinking of a tour? You looking for? You mentioned you want to be back to New York at some point.
I mean, on one hand, I'm just trying to get through like the week, but I am thinking about a tour. There's so much going on right now. I'm like, I just need to get through Vegas. But no, I am thinking about a tour. Listen, I really feel like this album I've made is very universal. It's very world influenced, and I would love to tour the world with it. That's the goal. And yes, I'd love to find even Joey said, "Oh, I'd love to play Westbury Music Fair with you because it would be so full circle because that's where we first met."
Oh, is that really? That's very cool.
Yeah. I went into the new kid's dressing room and he was like, he was such a baby. He was, well, because I was like 17 and I guess he was 14 or 15. And that difference between like a senior in high school and a sophomore or freshman or sophomore, it was like that difference. So to me, he looked like this little baby. He was sitting on his sister's lap. And that's where we met. So it would be really fun, to get out there with him. But these dates that we're doing together really are an intro to us working together. And so far it's going great. We're very like-minded. We're both just very joyful. We're both so audience oriented. We want to give the audience something special. And so we're going to be doing duets and then doing our own sets and then, more duets and more of our own and end together. And so we're putting together what that all looks like now.
That's very cool. Well, you mentioned Westbury Music Fair. I've seen you at Westbury. I've seen you at Radio City. Another place I've also saw you, and I'm going to show you two photos that I actually took. This is you at Madison Square Garden. This is me in the fourth, fifth row.
What year is this, Rob?
This is Electric Youth Tour, so I don't know.
89, probably.
89. At the Garden. And here's one other one that I took also.
I always got really sweaty on stage.
the rest are
and I
the rest
still
are terrible.
have that outfit and that EY on the back lit up. It doesn't anymore, but the battery pack is still in the jacket. Like I want to get that rigged again.
Well, can we start again if you could wear that and we can start again with that? I could just imagine what that must be like with batteries behind you and everything.
I know, it's hysterical. It was so like, not as sleek as things are now. It's got this bulky battery pack in it.
What's it like? I mean, playing Madison Square Garden as a New Yorker, no less. I mean, that had to be unreal.
Unbelievable. I mean, playing both Nassau Coliseum and Madison Square Garden during that time, like with all my high school friends and family in the audience and, where I saw my idols growing up, Billy Joel, Elton John, Tina Turner. That's a thrill. Such a thrill.
So what we'll stay back there for a minute while we're in this time frame. At 16, Out of the Blue comes out. It's, at the time, it's a different industry. It's still the monster that it probably is now in a different way. What happens? Do you pull yourself out of school quickly when things start to get big? Like, how did that happen? Were you going to school for a while you're on the radio?
So I was going to school, and homeschooling was not such a big thing back then. And there are times where I go, oh, in hindsight, I should have just done homeschooling. I had it in my, but I'm glad I didn't. I had it in my head that I never wanted to turn and look at my mom and my dad and say, you didn't protect my childhood. I didn't get to graduate with my class or go to my prom. Now, I got to do all those things, but it was such a weird, abnormal way of doing that. Like me being in school I wanted to blend in school like everybody does. I wanted kids to be able to differentiate the Debbie on the radio from the Deb in school, but they couldn't. So I almost like set myself up to be psychologically kind of bullied and it was either like, it wasn't even bullied. It was that mocked, like people had to have some kind of extreme reaction to me because they just didn't understand how to act and what to do with my success. So they either were, my new best friend, and I was like very much sitting back within myself, kind of looking with this perspective, like, that was the kid I was dying to be friends with, and now they want to be my friend because I'm on the radio. And that person was my friend. Why do they suddenly hate me? They couldn't deal with, they were so resentful. And so all of a sudden, everyone's dynamics changed, and I was like, it made me kind of sad, and it made me very defensive. And yet I had my core group of 10 friends that, many I'm still friends with to this day. I will say though, I went to my most recent high school reunion, and
nice move. I would have did that too for sure.
Evolved so beautifully. So what I learned was kids will be kids, but then kids grow out of it. And all of these people were they were basically telling me, I have been rooting for you all these years and I'm so happy for you. And everybody was happy in their own respective lives and comfortable in their own skin. And all of that crap was gone. And it was a beautiful thing to see. But yes, my high school existence was kind of a nightmare, which I brought on myself because I wanted to feel normal.
Makes sense. I mean, look, I know your mom was your manager during that time too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure that's half protective, and but she didn't manage anyone either before that too. So
right, we were learning it together. And look, I would take more protective over, sell your daughter's soul to the devil to have a hit record any day. I didn't have a Me Too story. I don't have a Me Too story. That's remarkable. That's remarkable. And that is because my mother physically would throw her body in front of anybody who even made an innuendo. And that's the truth. And that's that Sicilian, New York, Mama Bear who gets a bad rap. But she was like, I don't care about the bad rap. I want you to turn out happy, healthy, and sane. And you know what? I did. So thanks, Mom, because what a gift, And we weren't meant to see the business thing through till now. At a certain point, I think I woke up and went, I think I want you to just be my mom now. I think I'd rather this be a different journey. And Heather Moore, who used to work for me and my mom, I called her and she came back into my life, and she's been my manager and business partner in many ways for the last decade. And we have the most respectful, drama-free, joyful business partnership. We are out to, get this music heard and have a great time along the way, do great art. She's co-exec produced Hallmark movies with me, and we just have a lot of fun. This is supposed to be fun, it's showbiz. So I'm in just a great chapter, and, we're just attracting all kinds of joyful people into our world, and the music's getting out there now. And I, couldn't be more thrilled about it all.
Man, that's great. And you do have a makeup for show business. You mentioned taking out the garbage, and that's not that's not an accident. On Debbie's social, if you follow her, actually you can follow her it's just straight up at Debbie Gibson on all of her social. But if you follow Debbie, you'll notice that her neighbors know when she takes out the garbage, because she dresses up, sings her way to the curb with the pails, sings her way right back.
Again, that started during this past year, where it was like, how can we just keep like making mundane things joyful? Like, I was like, you know what, if I put the hair and makeup on, my energy rises to meet the visual. Lori's nodding in agreement. You hear me, girl. You've got your lashes on today.
There's so many days that we would just like be in sweats and like not really get up. And then you're right. When we started like putting some effort into it, it changed the vibe. I think that's great. Here in New York, we're cheering for the essential workers at night.
I mean, listen, I know, I can't imagine what you all went through. I have so many Broadway friends, and life for New Yorkers. For everybody it changed, but New York, I mean, God, I have the luxury of having a home with a yard, and I didn't really feel a lot of what was going on to the degree that you must have in New York.
Oh yeah, just to go for a jog and see those horrible refrigerated trucks, it was a sad thing, but like New York came out, we're doing really well now. It feels alive again.
I mean, it's coming. New York is, New Yorkers are like nobody else. I was in Manhattan 13 years, and it's just, the fortitude of New Yorkers is like just unparalleled. It's amazing. And Broadway's coming back.
It's coming back. And when you walk through there, it feels like it's coming back again. It's nice. So it's got a good vibe there. The tourists are slowly coming back. So
that's so great. And I love, like my Broadway friends and really all my entertainer friends. I love that, like, all those people were essentially, out of work, and yet they were generously and charitably constantly giving of their time and talent virtually to keep everybody else uplifted. And it makes me proud to be a part of that community.
Yeah, we had Constantine Maroulis on the show, and he had the
he's
same.
My buddy.
He's such a great dude, and he had such the same outlook. He was doing any kind of virtual event that he could just to get awareness, not just to, not only for the pandemic itself, but for everyone that was put out of work, because it's not just the people on the stage, it's the lighting, it's the the people who take the ticket, it's everyone. I know,
it's everybody. It's a tour bus driver, it's the janitor at the theater, it's everybody. And I'm just amazed that I'm proud of I just am amazed how resilient so many people have been getting through this time, and how much people did really reach out and try to lift each other up. And friends that I know who had a lot of money that were like, DM me and I'll Venmo you something. And then I started going into those DMs, and I found a lot of people who's you send a single I'm a single dad and I lost my job and I have 3 girls, and buy their groceries for a week, if you can. And I think everybody really started paying it forward like that, that's the amazing part of what came out of the past year and a half.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned bus driver. You've been doing a little driving yourself over the last week or two. Debbie's been driving. You could have just got on a plane and went to where you were going to film this movie, but you got an RV. Why? But it looks like a lot of fun, but
first of all, let me just say this. One thing I learned, a very valuable lesson: bring your Dramamine on an RV. No disrespect to my friend Kurt who drove us. He did I took the wheel for a little while, and let me tell you, you move the wheel this far and then you start to feel everything turn, and then the wind starts blowing you back the other way. And it went on and on that way. What I learned is an RV is not a tour bus. So a tour bus, you can cook a meal, you can rehearse you can bring your Gwen Omer on weights and do a vocal practice. Right. On an RV, you're getting tossed around, right? So this is what I learned, because I don't know, I just became obsessed with the fact that I wanted an RV. I'm really kind of a free spirit. I like to be able to, and I have 3 dogs. In fact, one of them's been here curled up.
Levi.
That's Levi. This is his first showbiz road trip. He's a little confused, but doing well. But he's happy to be with mom. But yeah, so I test drove like a 23-foot RV, and I think that's my jam. I want to like pimp out a small one that I can handle. I can pack up my boys. I can like do a little 5-hour jaunt, or 6-hour, go to LA, go to Palm Springs, wherever, camp it somewhere. Like that would be really fun for me. And I'm so glad I tried this size one, but I took half my life with me. My Peloton bike's over there. I've got like workouts. I've got studio equipment. I have a radio show due, I think, today. I just remembered that.
For how long? For how much?
Half my life here.
For
I'm
how
here
long?
for a month, but a month for me right now is a lot because I go home and I go right into rehearsing the Vegas shows with Joey. So
wow.
I put half of my life in that RV, and I'm so glad I did. But it was not for the faint at heart. And then there was an accident that slowed us up. So instead of a 2-day drive, it was a 3-day drive. So it's been kind of a wild adventure, but here I am. Yeah, I don't like doing things the same, normal, conventional, easy way.
Why would you? And yeah, like even like a fan told you, oh, it's my birthday. And you're like, okay. And you took a 3-hour detour just to go visit. Like, that's the coolest thing.
That's really
It
sweet.
was. And that's why I was so thrilled. I said, we couldn't have done this if we took a flight.
That's very true. Well, you could have. It would have been way more dangerous, but you could have did.
You know what it is, Rob? I really so I've been granted the ability, by virtue of the fact that people like my music and know who I am, to give people a moment. It's why I do the cameo videos. I can give people a moment. Why would I not want to give people a moment? And I don't think it's because I'm this great thing. I just think, again, I've been like, it's like, you've been chosen that you're in this position. So I'm like, I have to make the most of it. And the other thing is, I didn't feel well for so long. And now that I feel well enough to have adventures, I want to like squeeze every ounce of joy and adventure out of every experience. So, I didn't look out the window of the tour bus that first time around. When I went on the mixtape tour 2 years ago, I was like, I am going to look at every waving piece of wheat in a wheat field on the way because, we stopped and we visited the cows. We stopped, it's such a gift to be able to see the world going by from a tour bus window. It's every little kid's, I think everybody dreams of being a rock star in some way. And I get to do it. Not only did I get to do it once, getting to do it again. So I'll be darned if I'm going to miss anything this time around.
That's fantastic. And I know we have limited time. So one or two things I just want to show you here that I thought you'd get a kick out of. And let me swap this over. Now, Lori is not aware of.
I'm getting the wrap up.
Okay, we're going to be real quick. So Lori is not aware of this. Number one, here is a DGIF card from 1988. I am number 614, which means there's only 613 people cooler than me.
That is unbelievable.
And secondly, I show this picture constantly of me as a teenager to make fun of, but no one actually knows why. But now, that's why I wore the hat. Lori,
Stop
now you
it
know.
Right now, you have to look at this, JT. Look, I have to show my assistant. Wait, can you hold that up again so my assistant, JT, can see this?
Yeah.
Hold on.
There you go. There you go.
And I have known this picture for over 10 years, and I never knew that was for Debbie.
Exactly. So Debbie,
Lori love that. I'm wearing like the new, bigger boho version of the black hat. They frame the face really well. I love it. I'm a hat girl, and you're a hat guy. You rocked that Debbie Gibson bowler.
No, there was no helping this face. Once again, everyone, get ready. The Body Remembers. It's coming out on August 20th. Check it out. Debbie, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Lori.
All righty. Thank you for listening.
Talking to you guys.
All
and
righty.
you too, Levi.
Oh. He said, wake me when it's over. Thank
you so much for fitting us in. It was such a pleasure.
I'm so glad we got to do this because this will be the last go round of any press for a couple of weeks because there's so much going on.
No problem.
You were on our priority list, kids.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the album. We'll see you when you come to New York.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Whole. I am Rob Sprans.
I'm Lori Levine.
Later.